Alien girl accidentally calls human honey. Now she can't stop. The dust motes danced in the single beam slicing through the gutted hull of the derelict cruiser, and Jace swore under his breath. Another dead end. 3 days picking through this rust bucket. Nothing but fused tech and the lingering stink of alien biology. He ran a hand through his greasy hair, the air recycler on his cheap helmet wheezing. He needed a score, something that wasn't just slag metal and despair. That's when the humming started. Not the whine of failing systems, but a low, resonant vibration that seemed to come from the hull itself, growing louder, closer. His hand went to the worn grip of his pulse pistol. Scavenging rights on derelicts like this were, vote, debated. Some species considered them tombs, others free salvage. The ones that considered them tombs usually had very sharp teeth or very fast energy weapons. The humming intensified, vibrating through his boots. Then a patch of the bulkhead across the aisle shimmered, resolving not into solid metal, but a being. Tall, impossibly graceful even in the cramped space, skin a deep iridescent violet that caught the light. But it wasn't just violet. Veins of shimmering gold traced intricate patterns across her exposed arms and face, pulsing with that low hum. Bioluminescent. Shit. Elite class of some ancient, territorial race, probably. He'd heard stories. They didn't take kindly to trespassers, especially not scraggly humans. Her eyes, large and multifaceted like a fly's, but the color of polished obsidian, fixed on him. The humming stopped. The silence felt louder than the noise had been. She didn't speak immediately, just studied him, head tilted. He could feel the weight of her gaze, cold and assessing. His hand was steady on the pistol, but his heart hammered against his ribs. This was bad. This was really profoundly bad. He opened his mouth to offer a standard, utterly useless scavenger's apology. Lost, ship broke down, just passing through, didn't know this hulk was claimed, but the air crackled, not with energy fire, but something else, something psychic, a wave of recognition. It washed over him, leaving him dizzy for just a second. Then she spoke. Her voice was low, a melodic rumble that resonated in his chest. But the words were sharp, laced with something that wasn't just anger. Sod innership, intruder, you have defiled this place with your presence. Her gaze dropped to the battered comms unit clipped to his belt. It had picked up her words and was attempting a real-time translation, spitting out slightly delayed, tinny audio in his earbud. She took a slow step forward. The golden lines on her skin pulsed brighter. Identify yourself, state your purpose, your sentence. Thunder, she paused, taking a deep, slow breath, her intricate nostrils flaring slightly. Dawn. Unsettling. Unclaimed. Jace swallowed. Unclaimed? What the hell was that supposed to mean? Look, he said, trying to keep his voice even, just passing through. Didn't know anyone was still. Attached. Tob? To this wreck. No offense intended. I can just to be on my way. He gestured vaguely back the way he came. Back to my own wreck. Her head tilted again. One hand, long and slender with 3 jointed fingers tipped with blunt metallic claws, rose slowly. Not threateningly, not yet, but it drew his attention. The golden patterns flared on her palm. Be on your way? She echoed, the comms unit relaying the words a beat later. There was a strange curiosity in her tone now, overriding the initial hostility. You enter a sacred space, a vessel of the fallen, disturb its peace, and merely be on your way? She took another step, close, too close. The air around her felt thick, charged. Her eyes held his, and he felt that strange psychic ripple again, stronger this time, like a probing finger against his mind. Your energy signature, it resonates with the hull. Resonates? What was she talking about? His energy signature was broke and desperate. Look, lady, he started. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just a scavenger. I scavenge shit. It's what I do. He gestured to his multi-tool, his pack. See? Scavenging gear. Nothing sacred here for me? Just junk? He forced a grin. Well, potential junk. Pays the bills. She ignored his gear, her gaze fixed on him. Her free hand rose, this time reaching out, not for his pistol but towards his face. His instincts screamed at him to pull back, but something held him rooted. Curiosity, maybe, or the sheer alien intensity of her focus. Her fingertips, cool and slightly rough, brushed his cheek near his ear. The golden patterns on her skin pulsed violently now, spreading up her arm like liquid fire. The humming started again, louder than before, filling the aisle, echoing in his bones. Her eyes widened, the multifaceted obsidian reflecting the light from her glowing skin. The comms unit in his ear squawked static. Then her voice, resonant and low, a primal sound that bypassed the translator and hit him on some fundamental level. "Honey," she breathed, the word alien on her tongue, elongated, stretched into something that sounded like a hum and a sigh combined. And then in perfect, startlingly clear human standard, the comms unit finally caught up and translated the raw sound. "Honey." The comms unit repeated the word, tinny and confused. "Honey." Translation: a term of endearment, often used by bonded pairs or sweet, viscous liquid produced by certain insects. Jace stared at her. "What the hell did you just call me?" Her hand was still on his face, her eyes locked on his, wide and searching. The golden lines on her skin pulsed, not violently anymore, but with a steady, warm glow. The humming had softened to a gentle thrum. There was a sudden, dizzying rush in his head, a sensation like liquid light flowing through his veins, originating from where she touched him. It wasn't painful, but intensely disorienting. He felt DOS-marked, claimed. His internal alarm bells were screaming now, not just about danger, but about something far weirder, far more permanent. She didn't respond to his question. Her hand lingered, her thumb tracing the line of his jaw. Her expression shifted from assessment to something else, something raw and exposed. Confusion? Duh. Then, she pulled her hand back slowly, as if reluctant to break contact. The strange internal light show faded, leaving him shaky but intact. "Honey," she repeated, the word softer this time, still with that alien lilt, but accompanied by a strange flutter of something in the psychic space she'd invaded. The comms unit translated again. "Honey." Translation, as previously noted. Jace shook his head, trying to clear the fog. "Okay, look, honey isn't, and you don't just call random scavengers honey. It's a thing humans say to people they care about, or they're about to bang." He winced. Maybe too much information, but what the hell did he have to lose? He was already being scanned by a giant glowing alien who called him honey. She tilted her head again. "Care about bang?" Her multifaceted eyes seemed to narrow in thought. "My cultural archive does not contain these specific terms in relation to the resonance pattern." Resonance pattern? Was that what that light show was? "Yeah, well, your cultural archive is missing a lot of human colloquialisms. Honey is, "Du eerst bekolgen of orken, du eerst bekolgen de borking farting doan tenemendiets, du eerst bekolgen de borking farting doan decretactura quap starkia decredel et commentartin the 80 albuculus." It's familiar? Personal. It's not a threat. It's not a command. He paused, watching her face. The confusion was clear. Unless... Is it in your language? Some kind of sacred word? She drew herself up, and the previous commanding presence returned, overlaying the flicker of confusion. The resonance pattern was triggered by contact, by proximity to the vessel's core energy signature, now intertwined with yours. She gestured vaguely at him. The designation honey is sont, an automatic output of the bond structure initiated by the pattern. It signifies the progenitor. Progenitor? What the unholy hell was that? Progenitor? He choked out. "Lady, I just want to find a working power cell and get off this derelict. The pattern," she continued, ignoring his sputtering, "binds you to this vessel. To me, to my lineage. You are now designated progenitor. The term honey will be used to interface. It is the key." She said the word honey again, and this time he felt a definite pull in his gut, a warm, insistent current that flowed towards her. It was deeply unsettling. "The key?" Jace felt his voice rising. "Key to what? Getting my ass kicked for triggering your pattern? Getting eaten? What is happening?" Before she could answer, the ship shuddered violently. Alarms blared through the ancient corridors, not the internal ones but external warnings. Red alert klaxons echoed, followed by the sound of heavy impacts against the hull. "What was that?" Jace demanded, hand going back to his pistol. The commanding look on her face hardened into something cold and sharp. "Enemy contact," she stated, her voice losing all trace of softness or confusion. The X-lath. They hunt remnants of my lineage. She didn't look scared. She looked done, furious, and ready. They must have detected the pattern's activation signature. Detected you. Her eyes flicked to him, golden patterns flaring again, not with the soft light of before, but with a hard, battle-ready intensity. They will seek to extinguish the progenitor bond before it can be cemented. Cemented? Was that like permanent? He really didn't want to be permanently anything with this bioluminescent alien who called him honey and attracted hostile forces. Another impact rocked the ship, closer this time. The sounds of tearing metal followed. They were boarding. Cemented? Jace repeated, voice tight with panic. Look, I don't know what you're talking about, progenitor bond, pattern, honey, none of it. All I know is your space magic just painted a target on my back, and now whoever the hell the X-lath are breaking into this ship. He glanced frantically down the corridor. Dust rained from the ceiling. The klaxons screamed. We need to get out of here. She didn't move, her stance wide, poised. Her eyes scanned the entrance point the X-lath were using. Escape is not the primary directive, she stated, her voice calm despite the chaos erupting around them. The progenitor must be protected. The pattern must be secured. She looked at him again, her gaze intense. You, honey, stay close. The word honey still felt weird coming from her, especially now, layered over the sounds of invasion. And that pull in his gut intensified every time she said it, a strange, uncomfortable warmth spreading through him. He fought the urge to actually step closer, as if on a leash. Stay close? Are you kidding me? You're the one who brought the welcoming committee. He gestured wildly. We need to run. Find an escape pod, a maintenance tunnel, anything. A section of the bulkhead near the invasion point buckled inward with a screech of tortured metal. Dark, bulky shapes began to pour through the opening. They looked like heavily armored, multi-limbed insects, weaponry integrated into their chitinous plating. Sloth, and they looked pissed. One of them immediately swiveled its weapon towards Jace and the alien. She moved like lightning, not towards him, but in front of him, shielding him instinctively. Her hand wasn't empty anymore. A weapon had materialized in it, a sleek, golden energy blade that hummed with potent power, matching the glowing patterns on her skin. The X-lath fired. Green energy bolts lanced through the air. She deflected the first with a blur of motion, the golden blade singing against the energy. The second bolt hit the bulkhead behind her, gouging a smoking crater. Jace dove for cover behind a fallen support strut, bringing his own pulse pistol up. Useless against that kind of armor, probably, but he had to do something. Get down, he yelled at her. She ignored him, facing the incoming X-lath horde. You are takers, she spat, her voice now a low growl, the translator spitting out takers for the name of her enemy. You defile the resting places. You seek to sever the sacred bonds. She lunged forward, golden blade a deadly arc. Jace watched, momentarily stunned, as she engaged the first wave of X-lath. She was fast, impossibly so, her movements fluid and lethal. The golden blade sliced through armor and chitin, energy crackling as she fought. More X-lath spilled into the corridor. He couldn't just hide. He popped up from behind the strut, firing his pulse pistol at the attackers furthest from her, aiming for joints or less armored spots, hoping to draw some fire, create a distraction. His pulse blasts were like pebbles against their armor, but it made them shift, drawing their attention. One of the X-lath turned its massive head towards him, pincers clicking, and started advancing. Shit! He scrambled back, looking for another cover spot. The alien female, fighting a desperate close-quarters battle, somehow sensed his danger. She spun, deflecting a blast from one X-lath while simultaneously decapitating another with her blade. Honey, she roared, a sharp command that sent another jolt through his gut. Fall back! To the tertiary access tunnel. Now! She didn't say retreat. She used his bizarre new designation, and it felt like a physical shove urging him towards the back of the corridor. He didn't hesitate. She was the expert here. He ducked and weaved, scrambling towards the spot she'd indicated, the entrance to a narrow service tunnel. Pulse fire chewed up the metal around him. The alien female fought a desperate rearguard action, golden blade a whirlwind, her bioluminescent patterns flashing with every strike. She was being overwhelmed by sheer numbers. He reached the tunnel entrance, a dark, cramped opening. He risked a look back. She was holding them off, but it wouldn't last. "Come on," he yelled. "Get in here." She disengaged, leaping backwards with impossible agility, drawing the Exlath after her. One caught her with a glancing energy blast on her shoulder. She stumbled, the golden light on her skin flickering violently at the impact point, but she recovered instantly, diving into the tunnel entrance he held open. He pulled the access panel shut behind them as the Exlath slammed against it, their weapons firing, the metal groaning under the assault. The narrow service tunnel was pitch black and smelled of ozone and ancient coolant. Jace fumbled for the lamp on his helmet, clicking it on. The weak beam cut through the darkness, illuminating peeling paint and corroded pipes. He turned to the alien female, who was leaning against the cold metal wall, breathing hard. The golden patterns on her skin were still pulsing, but irregularly, especially near her shoulder where the blast had hit. The iridescent violet skin there was scorched, a dull, angry red replacing the vibrant color. "You're hurt," he said, stating the obvious. She nodded, her multifaceted eyes fixed on his face, even in the dim light. "A minor breach. The pattern energy is stabilizing it." She straightened up, though she winced slightly. "We must move. The takers will breach that panel quickly. This passage leads deeper into the vessel, towards the core systems. There is a secure chamber there." "A secure chamber?" Jace scoffed quietly, keeping an ear on the hammering and tearing sounds from the tunnel entrance. "On this wreck? What, is it blast-proof?" "It is keyed to my lineage's biosignatures and the resonance pattern," she said, matter-of-factly. "It should resist them." She started moving deeper into the tunnel, her stride long and confident despite the injury. Jace hesitated for only a second before following her. He had no other options. Running out into the wider corridors meant facing the Exlath swarm. Staying here meant being trapped. Going with the bioluminescent alien who called him honey and attracted assassins seemed, incredibly, like the least bad option. "So, this pattern," he began as they hurried through the cramped space, "and the progenitor thing. And honey. What exactly is going on? Why did touching my face do all that?" She didn't slow down. "The resonance pattern is dormant in certain vessels, tied to the lineage's biological and spiritual signature. It identifies potential progenitors, individuals whose core energy frequency resonates with the vessel's remnants, and crucially with the dominant lineage member present. Potential progenitors," he repeated flatly. "Potential for what?" She stopped suddenly, turning to face him in the narrow passage. He almost bumped into her. Her face, illuminated by his helmet lamp, was unreadable for a moment. Then, slowly, the golden patterns on her skin intensified, pulsing with a warm, heavy energy. That feeling of internal light and pressure returned, stronger this time. "Potential for bonding," she said, her voice low, resonant, the sound bypassing the translator for a second, vibrating directly against his nerves. Then the comms unit translated, "For reproduction, for continuing the lineage." She said the word honey again softly, and the pull in his gut was almost overwhelming. A physical ache this time, a sudden, urgent need that felt completely alien to him. It was like a biological command, potent and demanding. He stumbled back a step, clutching his stomach. "Whoa! What the hell was that?" She watched him, her obsidian eyes tracking his reaction. A flicker of something, satisfaction? Confusion? Crossed her face. "That," she stated, regaining her commanding tone, though the warmth of the pattern lingered in her voice, "is the progenitor pull. It activates the bonding imperative. The term honey reinforces it. It is a biological and spiritual anchor. A biological imperative." Jace stared at her, dumbfounded. "You mean, Momo, I just triggered some kind of alien mating ritual? By accident? By just being here?" She nodded, slowly. "Essentially. Your energy signature was, what, compatible." The touch solidified the connection. The designation honey completed the initial sequence. She paused. "Though," she added, a hint of something that might have been genuine confusion touching her voice, "the pattern usually requires deliberate ritualistic invocation. Its automatic activation upon mere contact is totter unprecedented. Unprecedented. And the vocal designation honey." She trailed off, shaking her head slightly. "My archives offer no explanation for that specific term. It appears to be a unique deviation." "Unique deviation?" "He was a unique deviation." "Great. Just his luck. Scavenge a derelict, trigger an alien mating bond by accident, get chased by bug monsters, and get called honey by the hot, glowing alien who now felt biologically necessary. His life was officially a cosmic joke. So, he said, running a hand over his face, let me get this straight. I'm now your progenitor, whatever that means, because some ancient tech decided my energy signature was good enough. You touched me, and now your biology is screaming at you to reproduce. Not to a tanwi. With me? Ornduas, the term progenitor signifies the intended role in the bond structure, she confirmed, perfectly serious. And yes, the pattern is driving the progenitor imperative. The pull you felt is mutual, though likely stronger in my biology due to the lineage connection. Mutual pull? He had felt something, that strange aching need when she said the word. He'd chalked it up to panic or the psychic weirdness, but she was saying it was his biology somehow responding. No, absolutely not. Mutual pull my ass, Jace snapped, forcing himself to ignore the lingering warmth in his gut. That was weird alien voodoo hitting me. My biology is screaming run like hell right now, not procreate. He needed to regain some control of this insane situation. Look, this is obviously a huge misunderstanding. I'm not a progenitor. I'm a human scavenger. I'm probably infertile with most alien species anyway. Can't we just deactivate this pattern? Break the bond? Find a way out of here and pretend none of this happened? She watched him, her expression unreadable. Deactivation is impossible once the sequence is initiated, she stated. The bond is
fundamental.
It is woven into the lineage's very structure. To break it would require a severance. She paused, her eyes holding his. A violent severance, potentially fatal to one or both bonded individuals. Fatal? Great. So he was either going to get eaten by bug monsters or he was permanently bonded to a bioluminescent alien who called him honey and wanted to make babies, and trying to ditch her would kill him. You're telling me, he said slowly, feeling a hysterical laugh bubbling up in his chest, that because I touched some junk on your spaceship, I'm stuck with you? And these things are trying to kill us because of it. They seek to prevent the bond from strengthening, she confirmed. The Escalates are a rival faction, ancient enemies of my lineage. They seek to extinguish any potential for resurgence. A progenitor bond would strengthen the lineage's failing core. Her gaze was intense. You are now vital to my lineage's survival. Vital? Him? A washed-up scavenger? Oh, for fuck's sake. Jace groaned. My life was complicated enough before I became vital to the survival of some glowing alien royal family. He ran a hand over his face again, feeling utterly overwhelmed. All right, fine. New plan. We get to this secure chamber. We figure out how to survive the bug invasion. Then we deal with this honey progenitor fatal severance bullshit, in that order. Agreed, she said, her voice firm. The chamber is not far. She turned and continued deeper into the tunnel. They moved quickly, the sounds of the Escalates breaching the panel behind them growing louder. The air in the tunnel grew warmer, humid. Strange, pulsating growths dotted the walls in places, emitting a soft internal light that added to the eerie atmosphere. They navigated junctions, following her unerring sense of direction. The progenitor pull was still there, a low thrumming in his gut, a constant awareness of her presence just ahead of him. It was distracting, unsettling, and he hated it. He felt like his own body was betraying him, reacting to this bizarre alien bond. After what felt like miles, they reached a dead end. A solid wall of seamless, dark metal. This is it, she said, turning. The secure chamber? Looks like a wall, Jace said. Where's the door? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she raised her hand, the golden patterns on her palm glowing. She placed it flat against the wall. The metal surface shimmered where she touched it, rippling like disturbed water. Then, an intricate pattern of glowing lines, mirroring the ones on her skin, spread out from her hand across the wall. They coalesced into a complex symbol. Activation requires the resonance pattern, she explained. And a donné? Compatible secondary signature. She looked at him. Your presence is required. You must. Lend your energy to the seal. Lend my energy? How? Touch the wall, she instructed. Place your hand within the activated symbol. Allow the pattern to flow. Hesitantly, Jay stepped forward. The symbol pulsed with soft light. The progenitor pull intensified again as he neared it, urging him forward. He reached out his hand, took a deep breath, and placed his palm flat against the glowing symbol. The moment he touched it, the internal light show returned, stronger than ever. The symbol on the wall flared brilliantly, bathing the narrow tunnel in golden light. He felt a deep resonating connection, not just to the wall but to her, standing beside him. It was like their two energy signatures were merging, flowing together, channeled through the wall. And then, she spoke the word again, her voice a low, soft rumble right beside him, the sound carrying that potent, confusing pull. Honey. The wall dissolved. Not opened, but dissolved. The metal flowing away like liquid into hidden channels, revealing a dark opening beyond. He stumbled back, pulling his hand away as the intense light and the merging sensation faded. The pull in his gut remained, a persistent hum. Jay stared at the opening in the wall, then back at her. That was something. She stepped through the dissolved doorway without hesitation. The chamber is secure, she stated from the darkness within. Come, the takers are close. The sounds of the Exlath tearing through the outer panel were alarmingly loud now, echoing down the tunnel. He didn't need further urging. He ducked through the opening. The chamber inside was small, circular, the walls the same seamless dark metal, as the dissolved opening resealed behind him with a soft click. The room illuminated with a soft golden light emanating from the walls themselves, mirroring the patterns on her skin. There were no furnishings, just a smooth floor and the low, steady hum of some kind of power source. Safe, for now. He sank down against the wall, adrenaline draining away, leaving him trembling. All right, he breathed, looking around the secure but sterile space. We're safe. Now what? She stood in the center of the room watching him. Her golden patterns glowed steadily, the irregular pulsing at her injured shoulder less pronounced now. Now, she said, her voice softer than it had been in the corridor, almost hesitant. The pattern will seek to stabilize, to solidify the bond. This chamber is designed for that process. It amplifies the resonance. Solidify the bond? Jace pushed himself away from the wall. What does that mean? Does it involve more glowy hands and weird pulls? She approached him slowly. It means the progenitor imperative will become dominant in both individuals. The pattern will seek to complete its function. As she spoke, the golden light in the room intensified subtly. The low hum deepened. That feeling in his gut surged again, stronger this time, accompanied by a heat that spread through his limbs, a strange alien ache that felt disturbingly like arousal. He looked at her, really looked at her. The soft light highlighting the curves of her body beneath her sleek armor, the mesmerizing patterns on her skin, the intelligent, multifaceted eyes. The progenitor pull twisted the sight into something else, something intensely, physically desirable, overriding his rational fear and confusion. His breath hitched. Dominant? He managed, his voice rough. Function? Are you telling me this room is designed to make us have sex? She stopped in front of him, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her. The culmination of the progenitor imperative is union, she stated, her voice a low rumble. The physical act completes the biological and spiritual tethering. The pattern requires it for full stability. She reached out, her hand trembling slightly, and laid it against his chest, right over his frantic heart. The golden patterns on her skin flared, and the internal light show returned, but this time it wasn't just light. It was heat, deep, burning heat that spread from her touch point throughout his entire body, pooling low in his gut, tightening his muscles, stealing his breath. He groaned, leaning back against the wall, suddenly weak. Union, he repeated, the word sounding foreign and impossibly potent. Her eyes, fixed on his, were no longer cool or assessing. They were dark, wide, filled with that strange, demanding need he'd felt from the pull. The golden patterns on her face and neck pulsed with an urgent rhythm. She leaned closer, her forehead resting against his, her warm breath ghosting over his lips. And then she whispered it, the word laced with a raw need that was utterly alien, yet intensely, disturbingly familiar now. Honey. The sound, the feel, the flood of biological imperative triggered by that single word broke something in him. The resistance he'd clung to for hours fractured. He was caught in the current now, pulled under by something ancient and powerful, something woven into the fabric of this alien culture, amplified by the dying energy of this ship and anchored by that strange accidental bond word. He reached up, his hands clumsy, trembling, and cupped her face, his thumbs brushing the smooth alien skin below her eyes. "Yeah," he whispered back, the word feeling strange and heavy on his tongue. "Okay." The last word was a ragged exhalation as she surged against him, pressing her body fully to his. The kiss was fierce, demanding. Not tentative exploration, but a primal claiming. Her mouth was soft, pliable, utterly alien, yet the connection that flared between them was hotter, more intense than anything Jace had ever felt. The progenitor pull, amplified by the chamber and the activated pattern, wasn't just a gentle tug anymore, it was a raging current, sweeping away thought, doubt, everything but the overwhelming, focused need for union. Her hands were everywhere, urgent, pulling at his scavenge gear, his worn clothes. His own hands fumbled with the strange fasteners on her armor, driven by the same desperate biological imperative. The golden light in the room pulsed in sync with the frantic beat of his heart, with the thrumming in his veins, with the deep, resonant hum that now seemed to emanate from both of them. She pulled back just enough to look at him, her eyes wide, dark pools reflecting the pulsing light. "The pattern demands completion," she rasped, her voice thick with need. "The bond must be anchored." She said the word honey again, low and guttural, and the sound was like a physical shock, sending waves of pure white-hot need crashing through him. He felt his body respond instantly, powerfully, beyond his control. This wasn't just arousal, it was a biological imperative so strong it felt like his very cells were crying out for contact. He pulled her back to him, crushing her against his chest. There was no thought, only instinct, driven by the alien bond and the suffocating intensity of the chamber. They shed their clothes in a frantic flurry, the scavenge gear and alien armor discarded on the floor. Her skin was cool beneath his touch, smooth and firm. The bioluminescent patterns pulsed and shifted across her body like liquid fire, mapping pathways he didn't understand but found himself instinctively tracing with his hands, with his mouth. Her anatomy was subtly different, curves and textures that were foreign yet intoxicating in their novelty. The heat between them built with terrifying speed, fueled by the pattern, by the progenitor pull, by the word honey that she kept whispering against his skin, against his lips, each utterance a potent trigger, a biological key turning in a lock he hadn't known he possessed. She guided him, her movements deliberate yet driven by the same raw need that consumed him. There was no shyness, no hesitation, only the relentless drive of the bond. When they finally joined, it was a shock, a physical merging that sent a jolt through him, bright and intense as a lightning strike. The room flared with golden light, the hum rising to a resonant tone that filled his head, vibrating deep in his bones. And as they moved together, driven by the ancient imperative of the pattern, she cried out, a sound that was part pleasure, part pain, part raw, alien power. She said the word again, honey, but this time it was drawn out, a long, keening sound. And as she did, he felt something shift deep within him, a click, a lock engaging. Simultaneously, a searing heat erupted on his chest, over his heart. He arched back, gasping. He looked down. Against his skin, mirroring the pulsing gold patterns on her own body, an intricate design was blooming, etched in pure light. It burned, intensely, but not painfully, more like a brand, a mark. It was spreading, weaving itself into the very fibers of his skin. He looked at her face. Her eyes were closed, her head thrown back, the golden patterns on her skin reaching a peak intensity. "The mark," she gasped, her voice strained. "The pattern's seal. Deposit it solidifies the bond." And clanks, the progenitor. He didn't understand the words, not fully, but he understood the searing heat on his chest, the way his body was irrevocably changing, aligning with hers. The sex was primal, urgent, driven by something far beyond simple desire. It was a biological process, a ritual, a necessity dictated by an ancient technology and a bizarre accident. As they reached a simultaneous climax, a wave of pure, incandescent light flooded the chamber, blinding him for a second. The golden mark on his chest flared one last time, burning itself permanently into his skin, before fading to a faint, iridescent shimmer. The intense heat in the room dissipated, the hum lowered, and the progenitor pull receded from a raging torrent to a steady underlying current, still present, still binding them, but no longer consuming. He collapsed against her, breathing hard, sweat slicking their bodies. The silence felt heavy, thick with the aftermath of something profound and irreversible. Jace lay there for a long moment trying to process what had just happened. The searing heat on his chest had faded, leaving behind a faint tingling sensation where the mark now lay, invisible in the dim light but undeniably there. The frantic energy that had consumed him was gone, replaced by a strange mixture of exhaustion, confusion, and a deep, unsettling sense of connection to the alien woman beside him. She stirred beneath him, shifting slightly. He rolled off her, landing on his back, staring up at the faintly glowing ceiling. The room was quiet now, save for their ragged breathing. He could still feel the progenitor pull, a subtle, insistent awareness of her presence, a low thrum beneath his skin that was somehow linked to her. He felt irrevocably changed, bound. "Well," he said, his voice raspy, breaking the silence. "That was intense." She didn't respond immediately. He turned his head to look at her. She was lying on her side, facing away from him, curled slightly. Her bioluminescent patterns had dimmed significantly, leaving her skin a deep, muted violet. The raw intensity that had driven her during the union was gone. She seemed smaller somehow. "Vulnerable. The bond is complete," she said finally, her voice low, devoid of its previous commanding tone. "The mark is affixed. We are tethered." Tethered. Yeah, that was one word for it. Permanently bonded, apparently against his will, by a weird accident and an alien sex ritual in a secure chamber while bug monsters tried to break in. Living the dream. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now that we're tethered? Do we get married? Do I get a crown?" He couldn't help the sarcasm. It was the only way he knew how to cope. She rolled onto her back, looking up at the ceiling like him. Her multifaceted eyes seemed distant. "The immediate consequence," she said, ignoring his sarcasm, "is stability for the pattern. It is now anchored to 2 compatible biosignatures for the lineage."
Huh? It signifies potential resurgence.
For us, it means our fates are now interwoven. Our life forces are linked. Life forces linked. That sounded, problematic. Linked how? Like, sure, if you stub your toe, I feel it? Not so. Oh, but you stony barn. I'm the collegeolus. I'm punjer. He's in the football channel of this farm. Not simplistic, she replied. More, a mutual vulnerability. Shared resonance. If one is significantly harmed, the other will feel the echo. If one expires, the shock to the bond will be, significantly harmed, the other will feel the echo. Profound, perhaps fatal. Fatal again. Everything seemed to come back to potential death with this alien. "So we literally have to keep each other alive," he concluded. "Because your ancient tech decided we're soulmates. The term soulmates is not precise," she said, though she didn't immediately dismiss it. "The bond is practical, biological, a mechanism for lineage survival. Though, KZ, so he was completely completely to look. The term honey, did its unexpected inclusion in the vocal key. It is still inexplicable." She paused, turning her head to look at him again. Her eyes searched his face in the dim light. "Why did you allow it? Why did you not resist the final step?" Jace shrugged, looking away. "Why didn't I resist?" He gave a short, humorless laugh. "Maybe because your alien voodoo turned my brain into mush. Maybe because your big bug friends were trying to break down the door and it seemed like the only option you were offering that didn't involve getting eaten. Maybe because..." Go on. He trailed off. "Maybe because despite the absurdity, the danger, the utter wrongness of the situation, there had been something undeniably powerful, something primal and compelling about being chosen, about that overwhelming, focused need that had consumed them both." He didn't want to admit that part. "Especially not to her. Maybe because you used that word," he finished, the sarcasm returning, "and apparently honey is my biological trigger for doing incredibly stupid, life-altering things." She was silent for a long moment. "The word," she said finally, her voice quiet, "it is powerful. I feel an urge to repeat it, a reinforcement of the bond." She said it then, softly, tentatively, "Honey." And despite everything, despite his confusion and frustration, he felt that low hum, that undeniable pull in his gut. It wasn't the raging imperative of moments ago, but a steady, comforting presence. It was still disturbing, but it was also warm, safe. An anchor in the chaos. "Yeah, okay, you can stop saying it," Jace said, though the pull wasn't as unwelcome this time. It was just palpitating. They're part of him now. It's weird. especially after, well, you know, he gestured vaguely between them. She sat up, wrapping her arms around her knees. Her skin glowed faintly in the chamber's light. The pattern's function is dual, she stated, returning to her more formal tone. Not only union, but protection. The activated bond strengthens us, enhances our regenerative capabilities, and makes us less detectable to those who would sever the tie. The takers will find it harder to track us now. Less detectable. Okay, that was a plus. Enhancement? Regeneration? He looked down at his hands, then experimentally touched the spot on his chest where the mark was. Still a faint tingle. So, we're like mildas, we're like kwechitikira kwedi kwechini bork of all had more mitarixties. We're like super bonded. The bond is ancient, she replied. Tested. It ensures survival of the lineage against existential threats. You are now part of that survival. She looked towards the wall where the entrance had dissolved. The sounds of the escalates had faded. Either they had given up, or they were searching other parts of the ship, no longer able to pinpoint their location. We must remain here until the immediate threat passes. The chamber will sustain us. Sustain? For how long? Days? Weeks? He was still wearing rags, and she had on scraps of armor. They had no supplies. Sustain us with what? The chamber provides atmospheric filtration and ambient energy, she said. For sustenance. The pattern facilitates resource transfer, from one bonded individual to the other, if necessary. But primarily, there is a nutrient synthesizer panel. She pointed to a barely visible indentation in the wall, activated by the mark's signature. At least they wouldn't starve. He pushed himself up to a sitting position. All right, so we hide, and wait, and try to figure out what the hell we're gonna do once we get out of here. Since, I'm apparently stuck with you now. She turned to face him fully, her legs crossed beneath her. You are bound, she confirmed. As I am bound to you. She studied him, her head tilted slightly. Your species? Of humans. They have complex bonding rituals, do they not? The marriage you mentioned? The care-about and the bang. She said the human terms with the same alien curiosity she'd shown earlier. But now there was a new layer underneath, the shared intimacy, the physical knowledge. My archives are both incomplete on human customs. Woman complex is one word, Jace snorted. Messy is another. And yeah, marriage is a bonding ritual. Usually involves a lot of promises and not accidentally triggering it in a derelict spaceship with a glowing alien. He paused, watching her. The care-about part, Janarwan Kam and the apart part. That's supposed to be the most important bit. Feeling something for the other person, more than just biology or ritual. He looked away, suddenly feeling awkward. Talking about human emotions to a being who seemed driven by ancient patterns and biological imperatives felt ridiculous. She was silent for a while. Feeling, she repeated, testing the word. The pattern generates a powerful imperative. Is that not a form of feeling? What's a feeling? Jace admitted, but it's not. Chis admitted, but it's not by utter love. It's like extreme hunger or thirst. Your body's screaming for something it needs. It's not the same as actually wanting someone, wanting them to be happy, wanting to be with them because of who they are, not just what they are for your lineage. He looked back at her. The bang part? That's usually about pleasure, about wanting to be close physically. It can be part of care about or just till physical release. He ran a hand through his hair. Look, it's complicated. Humans are complicated. Complicated, she mused. She extended a hand towards him hesitantly. Your feelings, do they include? Object, wanting me to be happy? The question was so direct, so unexpected, that it caught him off guard. It was a raw, vulnerable question coming from a being who had previously been nothing but commanding. He looked at her hand, then at her face. The faint glow of her patterns, the softness in her usually sharp eyes, the progenitor pull gave him a constant low-level awareness of her presence. But now, looking at her, seeing that flicker of vulnerability, he felt something else too, something that wasn't just the bond's imperative. Yeah, he admitted quietly, taking her hand. Her skin was warm now. Yeah, I guess I do. Even though this is completely insane, and you called me honey and got me almost killed. Her grip on his hand tightened slightly. She didn't pull away. They spent the next day confined to the secure chamber. The nutrient synthesizer panel, activated by JC placing his marked hand against it, extruded bland, energy-rich paste. It tasted like regret and desperation, but it was sustenance. The silence outside the chamber held. The Exlaths seemed to have moved on, or perhaps were still searching, unable to pinpoint their location due to the activated bond. Jason, the alien female, whose name he still didn't know, existed in a strange, tense equilibrium. The progenitor pull was a constant undercurrent, a silent conversation happening beneath their skin. It wasn't overpowering now, but it was always present, a shared awareness, an impossible intimacy. He found himself instinctively knowing her location in the small room, her moods. She, in turn, seemed to anticipate his movements, his needs, sometimes even his thoughts. It was unnerving, but after a while, he found himself relying on it. She didn't say honey as often now. The frantic imperative had passed, but when she did, the word felt less like a command and more like a confirmation, a recognition of the bond. He still flinched internally every time, but the sharp edges of panic were wearing away. He asked her name. My designation, she replied after a moment's thought, is Lyra Zath of the bioluminescent lineage. Within the bond you may simplify it. Lyroxath? Jace tried the name. It sounded like shattered glass. Okay, Lyrox. I'm Jace. Just Jace. Jace, she repeated, the human name strange on her tongue, but she managed it. She studied him. Your injury, she said, gesturing to the faint scorch mark on her own shoulder, which had almost completely healed. The blow you took in the corridor. Is it recovering? Jace frowned. He hadn't even noticed until she mentioned it. A Zexlath blast had grazed his arm. He pulled up his sleeve. There was nothing there. Not even a scar. He looked at her, startled. I'm gone. The bond, she stated. It facilitates healing, reciprocal regeneration. Reciprocal regeneration. So they healed each other now too? Just how deep did this tether go? He felt a fresh wave of apprehension mixed with something else, something closer to awe. This ancient alien tech, this accidental bond, was fundamentally changing him. He spent hours watching her. The way the bioluminescent patterns shifted and flowed across her skin as she rested, a silent display of her internal state, the delicate structure of her multifaceted eyes, the subtle differences in her breathing compared to a human's. He found himself noticing small details, appreciating her alien beauty in a way that went beyond the initial shock and the bond-induced imperative. He even found a strange humor in the situation. So, he started one cycle as they ate their paste. If we're dog-bonded. On, and I'm the progenitor. Sonner, does that mean I'm like defeating of the king of your alien babies? Do I get a little glowing crown? She looked at him, utterly serious for a moment. Then a faint, almost imperceptible flicker crossed her face. He could feel a ripple of something through the bond. Amusement? Confusion? Progenitor signifies source, she explained. Not Christian Wooler. The lineage hierarchy is complex, and glowing crowns are not customary. Damn, he said, pretending disappointment. Missed out on the glowing crown. Just the fatal bond then, he sighed dramatically. My life. She was silent again, watching him. Then, in a low voice, she said, you use humor to mask fear. And Doshin, sadness. He froze. The bond again. She could read him. Not just location and mood, but deeper, vulnerability. He dropped the facade. Yeah, he admitted, looking away. Got a lot to be fearful about right now. And, yeah, sadness, stuff from before this, stuff I was running from. He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. He felt her silent acknowledgement through the bond, a sense of shared weight. Later, as the chamber dimmed for a rest cycle, he lay awake, the soft glow of her skin the only light. The progenitor pull was a quiet reassurance now, a sense of not being alone in the oppressive silence of the wreck. He thought about the mark on his chest, about the shared healing, the interwoven fates. He still didn't understand it, still felt like a pawn in an ancient alien game, but he was bound to her now. And maybe, just maybe, that wasn't the worst thing in the universe. On the third cycle within the chamber, the ambient hum shifted. It grew louder, more resonant, and the golden light pulsed with a new intensity. Jace sat up instantly. Lyroxath was already alert. her bioluminescent patterns flaring with a battle-ready glow. "What's happening?" he asked, his hand going instinctively to where his pulse pistol would have been, before remembering he'd discarded it. "The pattern is stabilizing fully," she stated, her voice firm. "The chamber's amplification is reaching its peak." And she tilted her head, listening. Jace strained his ears but heard nothing beyond the rising hum. "They are still here," she said, her eyes narrowed. "The takers. They have located us, or they are closing in on the residual energy signature of the chamber." He could feel the shift in the bond now, too. A sense of external pressure, like something heavy was pressing down on their shared space. The comfortable anchor was tightening into a point of tension. "Can they get in?" he asked, standing up. "The chamber is sealed by the pattern," she replied. "But prolonged assault, or targeting the vessel's core energy source, which feeds the chamber. It may weaken the barrier." She looked at him. "We cannot hide forever. The pattern's full stabilization requires exposure, a confirmation of the bond against external threat." "A confirmation? What did that mean? Does confirmation involve us fighting your bug friends?" "It involves demonstrating the bond's resilience," she said. "Our unity against those who would break us." She stood up, moving with fluid grace despite the cramped space. She was retrieving her discarded energy blade. It shimmered into existence in her hand, golden and humming. "The chamber seal will weaken soon. We must be ready." "Ready for what? To fight? With what?" He had no weapon. "Lyroxoth, I don't have a weapon." "You have the bond," she stated simply, as if that was enough. "And your resourcefulness. I have witnessed it." She walked to the point where the wall had dissolved to let them in, placing her hand against it. The wall shimmered, the intricate golden pattern appearing again. "The pattern will open the seal when the threat is imminent. Be prepared." There was no arguing with her. He felt the rising tension in the bond, mirroring hers. The shared awareness of the approaching danger was palpable, a cold knot forming in his stomach. He looked around the empty chamber, desperate for anything that could serve as a weapon. A loose pipe? A piece of jagged metal? There was nothing. Just smooth, dark walls and the pulsing light. He was completely reliant on her. And on this bizarre, unwanted bond. The golden pattern on the wall intensified, pulsing faster now. The hum of the chamber became a high-pitched whine. Lyroxath tensed, her blade held ready. The sense of pressure outside the chamber surged. They were here. The wall dissolved with the same liquid grace as before, revealing the dark tunnel beyond. And standing there, filling the narrow passage, were the Exlath. More of them this time. Their multifaceted eyes gleamed in the dim light, weapons trained on the opening. Lyroxath launched herself forward, golden blade a terrifying arc, meeting the first wave of attackers head-on. Jace was left standing in the opening, unarmed, exposed. Panic seized him for a second, cold and paralyzing. Then the progenitor pull surged, not with imperative this time, but with pure visceral need. A need to protect her, to stand beside her. He felt a sudden, almost physical understanding of her movements, anticipating her needs in the fight. She was being overwhelmed. He had to do something. Anything. He saw a discarded piece of heavy metal conduit near the opening, probably fallen debris. Not a blade, not energy, but heavy. He lunged for it, snatching it up. It was unwieldy, but solid. He swung it wildly, clumsily, at the Exlath, trying to bypass Lyroxath and get to him. It bounced off their armor, doing little damage, but it surprised them, made them falter for a second. Lyroxath saw his action. Her head snapped towards him, her eyes widening. He felt a surge of something through the bond. Pride? Relief? And then she called out to him, her voice ringing with authority and something else he couldn't quite name. "Honey. With me." Lyroxath didn't wait for him to confirm. The sound of honey sent a jolt through him, a potent mixture of the bond's pull and pure adrenaline. He didn't think, he just moved, swinging the heavy conduit like a club, smashing it into the armored limbs of the Exlath nearest the opening, trying to keep them off her flank. It was a desperate, clumsy defense, but it was something. The Exlath were relentless, their pincers clicking, weapons spitting energy fire. Lyroxath was incredible, her golden blade a blur, deflecting blasts, slicing through chitinous armor. But there were too many of them pouring into the narrow tunnel. One managed to get past her guard, charging directly at Jace. He swung the conduit with all his might, connecting with its head. The blow staggered it, making it hiss, but didn't stop it. It raised a clawed limb, about to strike. Lyrixath reacted instantly, leaping back, blocking the attack with her blade, sparks flying. "Fall back," she ordered, her voice strained. Deeper into the wreck, she began to retreat, fighting backwards, forcing the Exlath to follow. Jace scrambled back into the tunnel, still swinging the conduit blindly, just trying to stay behind her, trying to be a shield, a distraction. The progenitor pull was a frantic beat in his chest now, a desperate urgency to keep her safe. It was confusing, terrifying, but undeniably powerful. They fought their way through the derelict corridors, the sounds of combat echoing through the silent hulk. Larixath was the true warrior, leading the retreat, her movements precise and deadly. Jace was just trying not to get killed, using the conduit to fend off attacks, occasionally getting lucky and staggering an enemy. The bond between them pulsed with the shared danger, a constant communication of intent and location. He knew without looking when she needed cover, when she was about to strike. She seemed to know when he was about to stumble or be overwhelmed. They moved like a single desperate unit. At one point, cornered in a wider section of a hangar bay, they were surrounded. The Exanglath formed a semicircle, weapons raised. Lyrixath stood tall, blade ready, facing the overwhelming odds. Jay stood beside her, conduit held high, feeling utterly useless but refusing to back down. This was it. They were going to die here. And then Lyrixath did something unexpected. She lowered her blade slightly, fixing her gaze on the Exath leader. Her bioluminescent patterns flared with an intense golden light, brighter than Jace had ever seen them. The hum that radiated from her and from him intensified, filling the hangar bay. She raised her head, her voice ringing out, not in a challenge, but in a declaration echoing through the cavernous space. "The progenitor bond is sealed," she proclaimed. "He is honey. My tether, my source. We are one." She looked directly at Jace, her eyes burning with the golden light of the pattern. "Jace, demonstrate the bond. Declare your claim. Declare his claim in front of a horde of bug monsters." What the hell was she talking about? But the progenitor pulse surged, urging him to speak, to confirm, to meet her declaration with his own. It felt like the culmination of everything that had happened, the only logical step in this insane, bonded reality. He took a deep breath, looking at the Exlath, then back at her, standing tall and radiant beside him. He felt the mark on his chest burn faintly. "Yeah," he said, his voice surprisingly steady, amplified by the strange resonance of the bond. "Yeah, that's right, I'm Dodd. Her honey." He felt ridiculous saying it, but the word out loud felt like power, like a final acceptance of the impossible. "And she's Tenation Dash et beside Fajar. She's mine. We're bound. So you want her? You gotta go through me." He raised the heavy conduit higher, feeling a strange, desperate confidence surge through him, fed by the bond, by her presence, by his own sheer refusal to die like this. The Exlath horde paused. They shifted uneasily. The declaration, the raw power of the fully solidified bond displayed before them, seemed to have given them pause. Or maybe it was just the utter absurdity of a flimsy human with a pipe, declaring ownership over a bioluminescent lineage heir. Whatever it was, it bought them a precious second. "Now," Lyrixath roared, and with renewed ferocity she charged. The Exlath's hesitation was fleeting, but it was enough. Lyrixath tore into their ranks, her golden blade moving with impossible speed. Jace, fueled by the adrenaline and the strange, fierce protection the bond now engendered, charged with her, swinging the conduit like a madman. He wasn't a warrior, but he was desperate, and he was fighting for her. The bond flowed between them, guiding him, amplifying his awareness. He dodged a claw strike he shouldn't have seen, blocked an energy blast with the conduit at the last possible second. He even managed to trip one of the bug monsters, sending it sprawling, giving Lyrixath an opening. They fought back to back, a chaotic, desperate dance of golden light and dark chitin. He could feel every impact she took, every swing of her blade, as a faint echo in his own body. She was a whirlwind of destruction, cutting down the Exlath one by one, but they kept coming. Then, just as his arms were screaming with exhaustion and the conduit felt impossibly heavy, a new sound cut through the chaos. Not the clicking of Exlath, but heavy metallic footsteps and the hum of different energy weapons. "Reinforcements? For whom?" A voice echoed through the hangar, amplified and resonant. Lyric Zath of the lineage, stand down. The takers will be repelled. The ex-Sloth immediately reacted, some turning to face the newcomers, others renewing their assault on Lyra Zeath and Jace, trying to finish them off before they were interrupted. Lyra Zeath hesitated for a fraction of a second, her eyes flicking towards the source of the voice. Then, with a final, powerful sweep of her blade that cleared a path, she grabbed Jace by the arm. Come, she commanded, pulling him towards a different exit from the hangar. My lineage. They detected the bond's full activation. Jace didn't question it. He stumbled along behind her, conduit still in hand, as they ran, leaving the sound of the fight, the clash of alien factions behind them. They ran through more corridors, tighter passages, the progenitor pull urging him on, keeping pace with her impossible speed. They finally reached a junction, a wider corridor with untouched, pristine walls and soft lighting. Waiting there were several figures, similar to Lyra Zath, tall and graceful, their bioluminescent patterns glowing with cool, steady light. They were armed, but their stance was one of protection, not hostility, aimed at the corridor behind Lyra Zath where the sounds of battle were still raging. Lyra Zath stopped, releasing Jace's arm. Her chest was heaving, her patterns still pulsing with exertion. She faced the lead figure, who was taller even than she was, his golden patterns particularly complex and vibrant. Father, she said, her voice regaining some of its formality though still edged with exhaustion. The taller alien's gaze swept over her, assessing her condition, then fell on Jace, standing beside her, bruised and battered, holding a length of metal pipe like a club. His multifaceted eyes widened slightly as they took in Jace and, more importantly, the faint shimmering mark on his chest. The humming in the air intensified, emanating from the other lineage members. They were sensing the bond. Lyrox Zath, her father said, his voice a deep resonance that vibrated in Jace's bones. You activated the core pattern, against protocol, and you are bonded, his gaze fixed on Jace again, on the mark. To a
Try another way.
human. Jace felt 100 alien eyes on him, judging, assessing. He stood a little taller, gripping the conduit. He was tired, scared, and still didn't understand half of what was happening, but he was here, with her. Lyra Zath stepped closer to Jace, placing a hand on his arm. Her golden patterns flared briefly, connecting their marks, their bond. He is Jace, she stated, her voice clear and strong, addressing her father and the others. My progenitor. He triggered the pattern. Accidentally, the takers came for him. She looked at Jace, her gaze unwavering. And then, she said the word, not with confusion or raw imperative this time, but with quiet certainty, a statement of belonging that resonated through the bond, through the air, through the lineage members present. He is. Honey. The word hung in the air, potent and final. Honey. The assembled lineage members reacted visibly, a collective intake of breath, a ripple of movement. The humming from their bioluminescent patterns intensified, rising in pitch. Lyric Zath's father, the elder Lyric Zath, stared at Jace, his expression unreadable. He looked at the mark on Jace's chest, at the bond connection flickering between Jace and his daughter, then back at Jace's face. Progenitor, the elder Lyric Zath said slowly, his voice now a low, thoughtful rumble. Accidental activation, against protocol. But, the pattern does not err, and the bond. It is strong, resilient. It survived the takers. He looked at his daughter. You fought together, protected one another. Lyric Zath nodded, her hand still on Jace's arm. The bond compelled us. But we functioned as one unit. She met her father's gaze directly. He is progenitor. He is marked. He is. Honey. Saying the word here, in front of her family, her lineage, felt different. It wasn't just a biological trigger anymore, or a desperate word whispered in crisis. It was a claim. A public acknowledgement of their bizarre, irreversible connection. Jace felt a warmth spread from his chest, from the markin throughout his body. He was standing here, a human scavenger in a derelict alien ship, facing down what looked like alien royalty, and he was being claimed. As honey, it was insane. But as he looked at Lyric Zath, at the unwavering strength in her eyes, at the way she stood beside him, claiming him despite the clear shock of her family, he felt something settle within him. Fear was still there, Confusion too, but also something else. A sense of belonging he hadn't expected. A fierce protective instinct towards her. The bond, for all its accidental forced nature, had created something real. Elder Lyric Sath was silent for a long moment, his gaze shifting between Jace and his daughter, a thousand calculations running behind those multifaceted eyes. The sounds of the battle in the hangar were fading now, the ex-Sath apparently routed by the arrival of the lineage forces. Finally he spoke. The pattern has chosen. The bond is sealed. Protocol dictates recognition. He looked at Jace. Human Jace, you are now bound to the lineage of Lyraxath as progenitor. Your fate is intertwined with ours. With hers, he paused. The word you triggered, Epusin's fuck. Honey, it is not in our lineage's lexicon for the pattern. It is new, unique to this bond. He studied Jace again, a flicker of something like respect, curiosity in his eyes. Perhaps it is a key to a new path, a deviation from tradition. He turned to his daughter. You will bring him to the sacred vessel. The union must be formalized. The lineage must witness the bond and the progenitor. Formalized union? Witness the bond? It sounded a lot like that marriage thing Jace had mentioned. Except, you know, alien royalty edition. Lyric Sath nodded. It will be done, father. She turned back to Jace, her expression softening slightly as she looked at him. The fierce warrior was still there, but now mingled with something else, something more intimate, more personal. The progenitor pull between them was now a steady, comforting current, a silent promise. Come, honey, she said, her voice low, for his ears alone. Not a command, not an imperative, but a simple statement of direction, using the word that had started it all. He looked at her, at the glow of her skin, the strange, terrifying, wonderful reality they were now bound to. He still didn't know what the future held, what being her progenitor and her honey would truly mean, but he knew he wasn't alone anymore. He had a tether to a glowing alien warrior queen. And somehow, despite the chaos, the danger, the sheer cosmic absurdity of it all, he felt. Okay, yeah, Jace said, letting the conduit drop to the floor with a clang. All right, Lyrazath, let's go formalize this mess. He reached out and took her hand. Her grip was strong, sure. The golden mark on his chest warmed, a silent confirmation of their unbreakable bond. The adventure was far from over. It had just begun.